Welcome back to Sean Thinking Out Loud. This is one of those Raw Friday episodes. That means I'm not sitting here pretending I have a polished thesis, a courtroom argument, or some delicate little inspirational message wrapped in tissue paper. I'm talking through what's been sitting in my head because sometimes that's the only way to keep from walking around all day irritated at the entire human race. And let's be honest, the human race works very hard to earn that irritation. This episode started as a few raw notes from different days: Friday, June 19th, Tuesday, June 23rd, Wednesday, June 24th, Thursday, June 25th, then Monday, June 29th, because apparently my brain doesn't care what day Raw Friday is supposed to be. The point isn't the calendar, the point is the pattern. I was thinking about training. I was thinking about discipline. I was thinking about phones. I was thinking about the way people interrupt real life to stare at a glowing rectangle like it's going to reveal the secrets of the universe. Spoiler, it won't. It'll show you someone dancing badly, someone arguing worse, and a notification from an app you forgot you installed. I was thinking about my martial arts, my workouts, what basics really mean, and why I'm not trying to train like some fantasy version of a Navy SEAL. I was thinking about being a black belt, wearing the gi, being sore the next day, and remembering that even after decades of training, the basics still matter. I was also thinking about living in Brazil, about people trying to sell me security, about the funny little gap between how strangers see you and who you actually are. They see some American guy, they don't know the background, they don't know Iraq, they don't know Afghanistan, they don't know 23 years in the Army, they don't know martial arts, they don't know what happens when somebody has spent most of his adult life learning how to deal with problems directly. And I was thinking about listening. That's the big one. Listening isn't complicated. People act like it's some high-level skill. It's not. Listening means somebody tells you, leave the car where it is, and you leave the car where it is. Listening means somebody is cooking on the grill and you don't decide to help by moving things around until the food catches fire and somebody burns their hand. Listening means you don't create a mess and then act offended when the person who told you not to create the mess gets angry. This episode is all about all of that. It's about training your body, training your mind, training your patience, training your ability to not lose your mind when everybody around you seems committed to making the wrong decisions at full speed. I'm going to talk about my workout. I'm going to talk about the basics. I'm going to be talking about phones and conversation. I'm going to talk about black belts and what people misunderstand about rank. I'm going to talk about security, boundaries, money, responsibility, and why take responsibility for your own decisions shouldn't have to be treated like advanced philosophy. But here we are. So this is Raw Friday. No costume, no fake motivational voice, no soft music playing behind me like I'm about to sell you a weekend retreat. Just me thinking out loud. Let's get into it.
Every time I tried to stand, they pushed me down. Now I've had enough, can't take it all around. It's time to be strong, time to be clear. No more being used, it's time to repair. No more Mr. Nice Guy, I'm through. Time to stand up, let the world see. No more being weak, it's time to break. I'm done with the pain, I'll take my place.
First thing I want to talk about is training, because I think people get training wrong before they even start. They see some video online, some guy is running through mud, carrying logs, jumping over fire, screaming at sunrise, and suddenly everybody thinks that that's what discipline looks like. They think if you're not destroying your body every morning, you're not serious. No, that's not discipline. That's usually marketing. I'm not a Navy SEAL. I don't want to train like a Navy SEAL. I'm not pretending to be one. I'm not trying to build a fake identity out of someone else's profession. I spent my time in the Army. I did my years. I know what hard training is. I also know the difference between training for a purpose and performing misery for an audience. I'm not a bodybuilder either. I'm not trying to become one. I have no interest in standing under bright lights, oiled up, flexing muscles like judges inspect me like livestock at a county fair. If that's your thing, fine. Enjoy the spray tan and the chicken breast, but that's not my world. I train because I want to move. I train because I want to defend myself. I train because the basics keep me honest. I train because I know what happens when people stop using their bodies and start turning into furniture with opinions. My workout isn't complicated. That's part of the point. I start with joint rotations, neck first, then shoulders, elbows, wrists, fingers. Yes, fingers. People skip fingers because they think the body starts at the biceps and ends at the ego. But in martial arts, your hands matter. Your grips matter. Your traps matter. Your ability to grab, release, strike, frame, and protect your body, hands matters. You don't want to find out your fingers are weak when somebody is grabbing you or when you have to grab somebody else. So I stop from the top and work down. Neck rotations, shoulder rotations, elbow rotations, wrist rotations, finger work, hips, knees, ankles. Everything gets moved before I start asking it to perform. That's common sense, which means we now have to explain it like it's a lost technology. Then I do jumping jacks. In the Army, we call them side straddle hops. Same thing. Different name. The Army likes renaming simple things because apparently jumping jack was too friendly and not enough like paperwork. I do 40 of those, then push-ups, 15. Nothing dramatic, no cinematic training montage, just push-ups. Then 20 sit-ups, 20 Hindu squats, 20 mountain climbers. I also do the movement where you step out and drop down. I couldn't remember the name when I was talking through the raw notes because that's what happens when your brain has been storing Army commands, martial arts terms, book ideas, family nonsense, and irritation for decades. Something has to fall off the shelf. Then I do high knees, 20. That's per leg. Then leg swings, forward and back, side to side, 20 each direction. That's the part that's partly warm up, partly mobility, partly martial arts preparation. I'm not doing it because it looks cool. I'm doing it because kicking requires hips, moving requires balance, balance requires control, control requires repetition. People want the fun part. They want the fast part. They want the movie part. They want to throw spinning kicks and pretend they're 5 minutes away from starring in a martial arts film. But training isn't built on the fun part. Training is built on the boring part. The boring part is where skill gets made. After the warm-up, I get into stances. Attention stance to ready stance to neutral bow, ready stance to forward bow, ready stance to horse stance, then twist stance, then pivots, then I box out. For people who don't train, boxing out doesn't mean I'm putting on gloves and pretending I'm in a boxing ring. It means I'm moving from a neutral bow in different directions. I'm learning to move offline. I'm training my body to not stand there in the path of danger like a mailbox with feet. That matters. A lot of self-defense is about angles. Somebody attacks you and you stay directly in front of the attack. You're making their job easier. Congratulations, you've become a cooperative target. Your attacker appreciates your customer service. Moving offline changes the problem. It forces the attacker to adjust. It gives you a better angle. It makes your defense more than just blocking and hoping. Hope isn't a plan. Hope is people use when they don't train. Then I work front snap kicks, and I do them slow. I lift the knee, chamber, extend the kick, bring it back, rechamber, put it down. Slow, controlled, 15 on each leg. That kind of training will humble you if you do it correctly. Fast kicks let you hide mistakes. Slow kicks expose them. If your balance is bad, you find out. If your chamber is lazy, you find out. If your posture collapses, you find out. If your supporting foot is wrong, you find out. Slow work tells the truth. People hate that. They want speed because speed lets them feel better than they are. Slow movement forces you to own every inch of the technique. It strips away the performance and leaves the mechanics. Then I do recovery training. I throw a straight punch and make sure I recover back to a good neutral bow while covering my center line. That sounds basic because it's basic. That's exactly why it matters. Throwing a punch is one thing. Recovering after the punch is another. A lot of people can throw something. Fewer people can return to structure. They punch and leave themselves open. They kick and lose balance. They move forward and forget they still have to defend themselves. A technique doesn't end when your hand hits the target. It ends when you're back in position, protected, balanced, and ready for what comes next. That's where training matters. After that, I work yellow belt basics. I'm going through the whole system again. And I don't have a problem saying that. Some people think that once you hit black belt, They're above the early material. That's ego talking. Ego is stupid. Ego gets people hit. Yellow belt basics still matter. Inside block, 20 each arm. Outside block, 20 each arm. Ridge hand strike, 15 each arm. Knife edge strike, 15 each hand. Normally, I'd use a Markiwata to strengthen the strikes, work the hands, and build accuracy. A Markiwata doesn't care about your feelings. If you hit wrong, it tells you. Sometimes it tells you by making you bleed. That's called feedback. Modern people don't like feedback unless it comes with a like button. The board won't flatter you. It won't tell you that you're brave. It won't give you a participation trophy. It'll just stand there and let you punish you. Useful tool. Then I do regular front snap kicks, 15 each leg. Then combinations. Combination 1, lead punch, straight punch. Combination 2 is lead punch, straight punch, lead punch, straight punch, lead hook. Basic, simple, necessary. The combinations teach rhythm. They teach hand placement. They teach recovery. They teach you not to admire your own first strike like a fool. One strike may not end anything. You need to flow. You need to follow. You need to stay covered. Then kata. For yellow belt, that means fundamental interception kata. I'm also working on the orange belt kata before I get to the orange belt again in this pass through the system. Some people hear kata and immediately check out. They think kata is dancing. They think it's outdated. They think because they saw 2 MMA clips and one loud guy on the internet, they now understand martial arts training better than people who have been doing it for decades. Kata isn't magic. Kata isn't a fight by itself. Kata is structured movement. It's body mechanics. It's transitions. It's angles. It's memory. It's discipline. It's a way to drill movements when you don't have a partner. It gives you a place to practice structure, balance, breathing, direction changes, and intent. Does every kata application work exactly the way some old instructor claimed? No. Some of it's garbage. Some of it's misunderstood. Some of it's been watered down by people who wanted trophies more than function. But kata itself isn't the problem. Bad training is the problem. Lazy thinking is the problem. People wanting instant skill without repetition is the problem. After kata, I stretch. 20 seconds each. I go back through the body and stretch what I moved. Neck, shoulders, wrists, hips, legs. I also do planks. 30 seconds. Not because planks are glamorous. They're not planks. They're not. Planks are boring. They look like someone fell halfway down and decided to reconsider life. But they work. They teach the body to brace. They build the middle. They remind you that your core isn't decoration. Then I work self-defense techniques. 5 by the numbers on each side, then 10 full speed on each side. That adds up. Repetition adds up, and that's the point. People ask how you get good. There it is. Reps. Correct reps. Not sloppy reps. Not ego reps. Not I did it once and now I understand it reps. Correct reps. Work the basics until you can't do them any other way but correctly. That's the line. That's the lesson. And it applies to more than martial arts. Most people don't fail because they lack access to secret information. They fail because they don't master the basic information they already have. They keep looking for advanced techniques because advanced sounds impressive. They want a trick. They want a shortcut. They want the one move, the one habit, the one diet, the one app, the one quote, the one motivational speech that finally turns them into someone disciplined. There's no one move. There's no shortcut. If you train martial arts, teach martial arts, or you're tired of books that treat kata like either mystical poetry or useless choreography, check out my Dragon Kempo 2.0 book series. This series is built around practical training, stances, basics, combinations, kata, application, structure, timing, transitions, solo practice, real-world movement, no tournament fantasy. No pretending every attacker is going to stand there politely while you perform a museum piece. Dragon Kempo 2.0 is for people who want to understand what they're doing and why they're doing it. If you're building your own training, rebuilding your basics, or teaching students who need more than because I said so, this series gives you material you can use. The books are available through Amazon and Google Play. Train with purpose. Work the basics. Stop collecting techniques like business cards. Now, back to the episode. I went to training the other night and wore my gi. Here in Brazil, they call it a kimono. In my head, it's a gi. Different word, same basic idea. A training uniform. Simple, useful, easy enough. Naturally, human beings still found a way to make terminology annoying because language refuses to behave. I wore my black belt. And here's something people forget. Everybody knows what a black belt is. Even kids know. You put on a black belt and people notice. They may not understand martial arts. They may not understand rank. They may not understand systems or degrees or what the belt actually means, but they know enough to recognize that black belt means something. That's where the misunderstanding starts. People think black belt means master. It doesn't. A first degree black belt is really just a more advanced beginner. That sounds insulting if your ego is fragile, but it's true. First degree means you've built enough foundation to start understanding the art at a deeper level. It doesn't mean you're invincible. It doesn't mean you can beat everyone. It doesn't mean you're now qualified to walk around like a movie villain waiting for challengers. It means you've earned a place where serious study begins. I'm a Yandan, a fourth degree black belt. In Japan, depending on system and context, that may be treated as master level rank, but titles are funny things. They can mean something or they can become decorations people hang on themselves because they need to feel important. I don't walk around thinking I'm untouchable. I know better. The more you train, the more you should understand what can go wrong. That's one of the big differences between real experience and fantasy confidence. Beginners sometimes think everything is clean. Everything works. Every move lands. Every defense stops the attack. Every fight has order. Training long enough should destroy that nonsense. Real violence is ugly, it's fast, it's messy, it's unfair. People slip, people freeze, people get hit, people panic, people misjudge distance, people overestimate themselves, people underestimate the other person, people get tired, people get hurt. A black belt should understand that. A black belt shouldn't be someone who believes in his own legend. And that's why I still work basics. Because rank doesn't replace repetition. Rank doesn't replace structure. Rank doesn't replace timing. Rank doesn't replace conditioning. Rank doesn't replace humility, even if some people with belts seem allergic to that concept. After training, I was sore the next morning. Good. That means I worked. Also means I'm not 20. Those two facts can exist together despite what the motivational fitness crowd wants to scream at you between supplemental ads. I don't work out that morning because I needed time between workouts. That's another thing people get wrong. Rest isn't weakness. Recovery is part of training. You don't get stronger during the workout. You get stronger when your body adapts afterwards. If you keep hammering yourself without recovery, you're not disciplined. You're just bad at math. Training has to be sustainable, especially as you get older. You can still train hard. You can still push. You can still improve. But you need to stop pretending that ignoring pain is always toughness. Sometimes it's stupidity with a headband. There's a difference between discomfort and injury. There's a difference between soreness and damage. There's a difference between discipline and self-destruction. You learn that, or your body teaches it to you the hard way. I'm also waiting on a black gi. That's going to be the new uniform for my potential school. And that matters to me. Not because a uniform makes the school, it doesn't. A uniform is just cloth. It doesn't make you skilled. It doesn't make you disciplined. It doesn't make you dangerous. I've seen people in perfect uniforms who couldn't fight sleep. But symbols matter when they're tied to standards. A uniform tells the student, this is training time. It creates separation from regular life. You put it on and you step into a different mode. You're not lounging around. You're not scrolling through garbage. You're not half present. You're training. That matters. If I open or build a school, I want the uniform to reflect the attitude. A black gi. Serious, practical, focused, not flashy, not tournament peacock nonsense, not 10 patches screaming for attention like a NASCAR jacket, just training. The school I would want is not built around collecting belts. It's built around building people. And building people requires standards. That word bothers modern people, standards. They hear it and immediately start looking for an escape hatch. Standards mean you might be wrong. Standards mean effort matters. Standards mean not every attempt is equal. Standards mean good enough might not be good enough. Good. That's how improvement works. In martial arts, you need standards for stance, guard, distance, recovery, footwork, targeting, control, and attitude. Yes, attitude. A bad attitude poisons training faster than bad technique. Bad technique can be corrected if the student is willing. A bad attitude defends itself. It makes excuses. It blames the instructor. It blames the system. It blames age, size, time, mood, stress, weather, moon phase, and probably capitalism if you give it long enough. A serious student accepts correction. That doesn't mean the instructor is always right. Instructors can be wrong. I've seen plenty of martial arts nonsense taught with absolute confidence. Confidence doesn't make garbage stop being garbage. But serious student listens, tests, works, adjusts, and improves. That's the process. That's also why basics are so important. Basics give you a measuring stick. If your stance is wrong, your movement suffers. If your guard is wrong, your recovery suffers. If your footwork is wrong, your timing suffers. If your breathing is wrong, your endurance suffers. Everything connects. People want advanced material because it feels important, but advanced material is usually basic material under pressure at speed with better timing. That's the dirty little secret. Advanced isn't magic. Advanced is clean basics performed under worse conditions. That's true in martial arts. It's true in the Army. It's true in writing. It's true in life. A good writer still has to write clear sentences. A good soldier still has to maintain his weapon. A good martial artist still has to stand correctly, move correctly, strike correctly, recover correctly, and think correctly. There's no rank where fundamentals stop mattering. The belt around your waist should remind you of responsibility, not excuse you from work. And that's where people lose the plot. They want the recognition without the responsibility. They want the title without the standard. They want the respect without the repetition. No. If you wear the belt, you owe the belt something. If you teach, you owe the students something. If you claim experience, you owe people honesty. And if you're going to build something, whether it's a school, a system, a book series, a podcast, or a personal routine, you need to decide what standard you're willing to live by when nobody's clapping. Because applause is cheap. Standards are expensive. They cost time. They cost comfort. They cost ego. They cost excuses. That's why most people avoid them. They'd rather post about discipline than live under it. And that brings me right back to training. My workout isn't perfect. My system is always being refined. My body isn't the same body I had at 25. But I show up. I work basics. I go back through the material. I correct. I repeat. I keep going. That's what rank should mean. Not that you're finished. That you understand how much work is still left. This episode is talking a lot about martial arts because that's where a lot of these lessons come from. If you want more of that, get into the Dragon Kempo 2.0 series. These books are written for people who train seriously. They're not built around fantasy fighting. They're not built around tournament performance. They're not written for people who want martial arts to be a costume. They focus on practical kata, application, basic mechanics, and the kind of training you can do when you're working alone and still want your practice to mean something. That matters because most people don't always have a class full of partners. Sometimes you have space, time, and discipline. That's enough to work if you know what to work. The Dragon Kempo 2.0 books are available through Amazon and Google Play. Build the foundation, then build on it. Back to the show. Now let me talk about phones, because I'm tired of watching people stare at their phones all the time. And I do mean tired. Not mildly annoyed, not technology sure is changing society tired. I mean tired in the way a man gets tired when he's trying to have a conversation with another human being and all he can see is the back of a smartphone. We've reached a point where people don't even pretend anymore. They sit there with another person right in front of them and they scroll, they tap, They watch little videos, they answer messages that don't matter, they check notifications from people who wouldn't show up if their car broke down, they give their full attention to a device and then wonder why the relationship feels distant. It's not complicated. You're not present. That's the problem. People want to be connected to everybody except the person sitting across from them. And the phone companies figured it out. Social media figured it out. App developers figured it out. They built little attention machines and people walked right into them. Now everybody carries one around like it's life support. I don't carry my phone most of the time. I carried it for a little bit when I was starting some new karate techniques, probably because I needed access to notes or video or whatever I was using at the time. But normally, I don't carry it. My phone has a purpose. It helps me transfer money from my American account to my Brazilian account. That's basically it. It's a tool. That's what phones are supposed to be. A tool. But people don't use them like tools anymore. They use them like pacifiers. They use them like shields. They use them like portable escape rooms from real life. The second a conversation gets quiet, out comes the phone. The second they're bored, out comes the phone. The second they have to sit there with their own thoughts for 8 seconds, out comes the phone. And then we wonder why attention spans are shot. We wonder why people can't follow an argument. We wonder why people can't remember anything. We wonder why people can't sit still. We wonder why people are anxious, distracted, and emotionally twitchy. Maybe it has something to do with the fact that we're feeding their brain garbage every waking hour and calling it staying informed. Most people aren't staying informed. They're staying stimulated. There's a difference. Staying informed means you're learning something useful, checking something necessary, or communicating with purpose. Staying stimulated means you're letting an algorithm shovel nonsense into your face because silence makes you uncomfortable. Now we have smartphones and dumber people. That's not just a joke. I mean it. The phone is smart because it remembers everything for you. It navigates for you. It calculates for you. It entertains you. It reminds you. It distracts you. It tells you when to wake up, when to move, where to go, what to watch, what to think about, and who is mad today. And the more the phone does, the less some people seem willing to do for themselves. They don't remember phone numbers. They don't remember directions. They don't sit and think. They don't talk through problems. They don't observe their surroundings. They don't even look up when they cross the street half the time. I've watched people walk around so buried in their phones that they barely know where they are. And I'm supposed to believe this is progress? Progress toward what? A species that can't find the bathroom without GPS? The phone itself isn't evil. I'm not doing some old man routine where I pretend everything new is bad. I'm not sitting here yelling at electricity. Technology can be useful. Smartphones can be useful. Communication matters. Banking matters. Translation matters. Navigation matters. Emergency access matters. The problem isn't the tool. The problem is addiction pretending to be convenience. And the social cost is real. When you're talking to someone and they keep staring at their phone, the message is clear. This screen matters more than you do. People can dress it up however they want. They can say they're multitasking. They can say they're listening. They can say they just need to check one thing. And maybe sometimes that's true. Emergencies happen. Work happens. Family happens. But most of the time, it's not an emergency. It's habit. It's impulse. It's disrespect with a battery percentage. And relationships can't survive on half attention forever. You can't keep giving your best focus to strangers online and your leftovers to the people in your house. That's backwards. And here's where people get defensive. They say, well, I can listen and look at my phone. No, you can't. You can hear sound while looking at your phone. That's not the same as listening. Listening means attention. Listening means eye contact. Listening means you're tracking tone, expression, body language, timing, and meaning. Listening means you're in the moment enough to respond to what was actually said, not just the last 3 words you managed to catch between notifications. People do this all the time. You say something to them, they go, huh? You repeat it, they say, no, I heard you. No, you didn't. If you heard me, why did I have to say it again? This is the kind of nonsense that makes a man want to go to live in a cave with a coffee pot and a punching bag. And it's not just marriage, it's everywhere. Restaurants, gyms, sidewalks, family gatherings. People don't gather anymore. They occupy the same physical space while visiting separate digital worlds. Everybody's sitting together alone. That's a strange kind of sad. And I don't think people understand what they're losing. Conversation is a skill. Presence is a skill. Listening is a skill. Patience is a skill. If you don't use skills, they degrade. You can see it. People can't handle disagreement because they're used to blocking, muting, scrolling, and escaping. They can't sit through discomfort because the phone gives them instant relief. They can't focus because their brain has been trained to expect a reward every few seconds. Then they bring that into relationships. They bring it into work, they bring it into training, and it shows. A student who can't pay attention can't learn. A spouse who can't put the phone down can't connect. A friend who can't stop scrolling can't be present. A person who can't sit quietly can't think clearly. That last one matters more than people want to admit. Thinking requires space. Your brain needs room to work. It needs quiet sometimes. It needs boredom sometimes. Boredom is not the enemy. Boredom is where your mind starts processing. It's where ideas form. It's where you notice things. It's where you figure out what's actually bothering you. But people don't let themselves get bored anymore. The second boredom shows up, they medicate it with the phone. And then they wonder why they never feel settled. You can't live your whole life reacting to inputs and still believe you're in control. That's not control. That's being trained. The phone buzzes, you look. The app refreshes, you scroll. The video ends, another begins. The argument appears, you react. The notification pops, your attention moves. At some point, you have to ask who's giving orders, you or the device. And if the answer makes you uncomfortable, good, it should. I'm not saying throw the phone into the ocean, though depending on the day, I understand the temptation. I'm saying put it down when a person is talking to you. Put it away during meals. Stop carrying it like a religious object. Stop letting every beep interrupt your real life. If the President of the United States is not calling, if nobody is bleeding, if the house is not on fire, if there is no actual emergency, then maybe the phone can wait. That's a radical idea now. Maybe the phone can wait. You'd think I suggested we return to smoke signals and leeches, but I mean it. Phones are making people sloppy, sloppy with attention, sloppy with relationships, sloppy with awareness, sloppy with thought, and sloppiness spreads. If you train sloppy, you fight sloppy. If you listen sloppy, you understand sloppy. If you live sloppy, your life becomes a pile of preventable problems. Which brings me to the bigger point. Attention is respect. When you give someone your attention, you're telling them they matter in that moment. When you refuse, you're telling them something else. And people can feel that, even when they can't explain it. So if you're sitting with somebody, sit with them. If you're talking, talk. If you're listening, listen. If you need to use the phone, use it with purpose and then put it away. Stop pretending the digital world is always more urgent than the real one, because one day you may look up and realize the people in the real world stopped trying to reach you. And honestly, who could blame them? If this episode is hitting on discipline, attention, and training, that ties directly into my books. The Dragon Kempo 2.0 series is built for people who still understand that skill takes repetition. You don't get better by watching clips. You don't build real ability by collecting opinions. You train. The books walk you through practical material with the mindset that basics matter, stances matter, Footwork matters. Recovery matters. Kata can matter when it's trained with purpose and not treated like empty performance. If you're a martial artist, instructor, student, or just someone who wants to understand practical movement better, take a look at the series. Available through Amazon and Google Play. No magic, no nonsense, just training material for people willing to work. Back to Raw Friday. Living in Brazil gives me plenty to think about. Some of it's beautiful, some of it's strange, some of it makes sense once you understand the culture. Some of it still makes me stare into the distance like I'm trying to remember what planet I landed on. One thing they have here, at least in my area, is these neighborhood security companies. They ride around on motorcycles with blue lights and little sirens. If you pay them, they'll put a sign on your house. In my neighborhood, it's Falcon Security. The idea is that they're watching the area, checking houses, being visible, making people feel like there's another layer of security. Fine, I understand the business model. People want to feel protected. Security signs can deter some criminals. Patrols can make residents feel better. Visibility matters. I'm not saying the entire concept is useless. But they keep stopping and asking me if I want to pay for security. And I keep thinking, you might want to ask the neighbors, because these people don't know me. They see some American living in Brazil. They don't know my background. They don't know what I did for a living. They don't know where I've been. They don't know what I've survived. They don't know what I've trained. They don't know what I've noticed when I'm standing outside. They don't know what I hear. They don't know what I'm looking at. They just see a house and a potential customer. And I get it. That's business. But part of me wants to put a sign out in front that says, stop asking me if I need security. I'm an American veteran who fought in Iraq and Afghanistan, and if anything, ask my neighbors if they feel safer. Maybe add, also, you're already in range. Now, before someone gets dramatic, that's not a threat, that's humor with a background. But the point is real. People don't know who they're talking to. That's one of the strange things about moving somewhere new. You carry your whole life with you, but nobody can see it. Your history doesn't appear over your head like a video game character profile. There's no floating label that says retired Army Infantry Staff Sergeant, 23 years, Iraq, Afghanistan, martial artist, author. Don't mistake silence for helplessness. People just see what's in front of them, and that can be refreshing. It can also be annoying, because sometimes people treat you like a blank slate, and you have to decide whether it's worth explaining yourself. Most of the time, it's not. I don't need strangers to understand me. I don't need the security guy on the motorcycle to know my resume. I don't need the neighborhood to hold a ceremony. I live my life. I handle my business. I keep my eyes open. That's enough. But it does make me think about identity. Who are you when nobody around you knows your past? That's a good question. A lot of people build their whole personality around being recognized. They need everyone to know what they did, where they served, what rank they held, what title they earned, what degree they got, what trauma they survived, what victories they had. I understand the impulse. After you spend decades becoming something, it can feel strange when people don't see it. But there's also freedom in that, because if your identity is real, it doesn't require constant applause. You're still who you were when nobody knows. You're still trained when nobody sees the belt. You're still experienced when nobody knows the stories. You're still disciplined when nobody gives you credit. You're still dangerous if necessary, even if you're standing there in sandals holding groceries. That's the part people miss. Real identity is carried. It's not announced. Now, I'm not saying never tell your story. I tell mine all the time. I write, I record, I talk, I make episodes like this because I have things to say and because apparently my brain refuses to shut up unless I give it a microphone. But there's a difference between telling your story and needing every stranger to validate it. When those security guys ask if I want to pay, I don't unload 23 years of Army service on them. I usually just say no. That's enough. They don't need a lecture. They're doing their job. I'm doing mine. Still, the situation is funny. Because in my head, I'm thinking, brother, I appreciate the offer, but if something happens here, your motorcycle siren isn't the first line of defense. That's not arrogance, that's experience. There's a difference. Arrogance says, nothing can happen to me. Experience says, things can happen, so pay attention. Arrogance says, I'm untouchable. Experience says, I've handled problems before, and I know enough not to invite more. That distinction matters. I don't walk around trying to prove anything. I'm not looking for trouble. I'm not interested in being the loud American who thinks every disagreement needs to turn into a scene. That's not strength. That's insecurity wearing boots. Real security starts with awareness. Know your area. Know your exits. Know who belongs and who doesn't. Know what normal looks like so you can spot abnormal. Know where your family is. Know where your keys are. Know how to move. Know when to speak and when to shut up. Know when to leave. Most people skip all of that and then want to buy a gadget. The gadget is easier. A camera is easier than awareness. A sign is easier than discipline. A paid patrol is easier than knowing your own surroundings. Again, I'm not against tools. Tools help. Cameras help. Locks help. Lights help. Security patrols may help. But tools don't replace judgment. And judgment comes from attention. There's that word again, attention. The same thing phones are stealing. The same thing training builds. The same thing relationships need. The same thing security depends on. Attention isn't optional. It's one of the most basic survival skills you have. And modern life keeps training people out of it. People walk around distracted. They drive distracted. They talk distracted. They train distracted. They parent distracted. They live distracted. Then something goes wrong and suddenly they want to know why. Because you weren't paying attention. That's usually the answer. It's not complicated. It's just uncomfortable. Living in another country sharpens that a little. You don't have all the same assumptions. You don't always know the systems. You don't always know the rules. You don't understand every conversation around you. You have to observe more. You have to read context. You have to learn how things work. That can be good for you. Comfort makes people dull. When everything is familiar, people stop seeing. They move through life on autopilot. Same roads, same stores, same conversations, same habits, same little complaints. They stop noticing details unless those details inconvenience them. Move somewhere else and the world gets loud again. You notice how people drive, how people greet each other, how they handle business, how they handle noise, how they handle family, how they handle security, how they handle time, how they handle personal space. Some things you like. Some things make you wonder how society hasn't collapsed by lunch, but you learn. And if you're smart, you let the experience teach you instead of demanding the whole country rearrange itself around your preferences. That's another thing people struggle with. They move somewhere and immediately start comparing everything to where they came from. Some comparison is natural, but if all you do is complain that the new place isn't the old place, maybe the problem is not the new place. I live in Brazil now. That doesn't mean I stopped being American. It doesn't erase my past. It doesn't erase my service. It doesn't erase my habits. It doesn't erase my standards. But I'm here, so I have to live here as it is, not as some imaginary extension of the United States. That requires adjustment. It also requires boundaries. And that's a theme in this episode too. Boundaries with technology, boundaries in training, boundaries with people. Boundaries with money, boundaries with anyone who keeps mistaking your patience for permission. Because if you don't define your own boundaries, other people will define them for you. And you probably won't like the results. Before we get into the next segment, let me plug the books again. The Dragon Kempo 2.0 series is for people who care about practical martial arts training. If you're rebuilding basics, teaching new students, working kata, or trying to make solo training productive, this series gives you the structure. It's not about pretending a book can replace mat time. It can't. Anyone who tells you a book replaces training is selling a fantasy. But a good training book can organize your thinking. It can give you drills. It can explain principles. It can help you remember what to practice and why it matters. That's what I built these books to do. You can find Dragon Kempo 2.0 series on Amazon and Google Play. Now let's talk about listening, responsibility, and why some people seem determined to turn simple instructions into property damage. Now we get to the part where I may sound angry. That's because I am. And before everybody tries to turn this into something else, let me make the point clear. If we've had a party and I've had a few beers and I tell you to leave the car where it's parked, and you decide not to listen and then move the car and hit the wall of the house, the problem isn't that I had a few beers. The problem is that you didn't listen and you hit the house with the car. That's not complicated. A child could track this chain of events. A dog might struggle, but a child could get there. Instruction given. Leave the car where it is. Instruction ignored. Car moved. Result, car hits house. Conclusion, the person who ignored the instruction caused the problem. But people don't like clean accountability because clean accountability points directly at them. So they start fogging the room. They start changing the subject. They start talking about tone, emotion, alcohol, stress, timing, anything except the decision they made. No, we're not doing that. If you ignore good advice and damage property, own it. If you touch something you should have left alone and create a problem, own it. If someone told you not to do something and you did it anyway, own it. That's the adult version. The childish version is blaming the person who got mad at you after you created the mess. And I'm tired of that. Same thing with the grill. If I'm cooking on the grill and you move the food lower on the grill and it catches fire and I try to put it out and burn my hand, the problem isn't that I got mad. The problem is that you messed with the grill. Again, this isn't advanced reasoning. We're not splitting atoms in a basement laboratory. We're identifying cause and effect. You touched the thing went wrong, someone got hurt, you caused the sequence. Own it. People hate owning things now. They want credit for intentions and immunity from outcomes. I was just trying to help. Fine, your help caused a problem. I didn't mean to. Fine, you still did it. I thought it would be okay. Fine, you thought wrong. Intentions matter, but they don't erase consequences. This is one of the biggest problems in everyday life. People keep acting like if their intention wasn't malicious, then nobody is allowed to be angry about the damage. That's nonsense. If you back into my wall, I don't care that your heart was pure. The wall is still hit. If you move food on a grill and I get burned trying to fix the fire, I don't care that you were helping. My hand is still burned. Results matter. And when the results hurt people or damage property, someone has to take responsibility. That someone is usually the person who ignored the instruction. This is where listening comes back again. Listening prevents problems. That's one of the reasons I value it so much. Listening isn't just polite. Listening is practical. Listening saves time, money, pain, arguments, and sometimes blood. In the Army, not listening can get people killed. In martial arts, not listening can get you hurt. In relationships, not listening destroys trust. At home, not listening breaks things that don't need to be broken. There are levels to it, obviously. Hitting a wall with a car is not the same as failing to listen during a firefight, but the principle is the same. Instructions exist for a reason. If someone with more awareness, more experience, or more information tells you not to do something, maybe pause before your ego grabs the steering wheel. And that's what this usually comes down to. Ego. People don't listen because they think they know better, or they don't like being told, or they're impatient, or they're distracted, or they think the rule doesn't apply to them, or they think they can handle it, or they just do whatever impulse tells them to do and leave everyone else to clean up the wreckage. Then, when someone finally gets angry, they act wounded. This is the part that drives me insane. The person who caused the problem becomes offended by the reaction to the problem. They damaged something, and now you're the bad guy because you raised your voice. They ignored you, now you're the bad guy because you're frustrated. They created a situation, and now you're the bad guy because you refuse to pretend it's fine. No, that's backwards. Anger isn't always abuse. Sometimes anger is the correct response to repeated stupidity, preventable damage, and people refusing to take responsibility. Now, anger still has to be controlled. I know that. I'm not sitting here saying lose control. I'm not saying go hurt people. I'm not saying smash things. I'm not saying escalate everything until the neighbors are watching through the curtains. Control matters, especially for someone with my background. I know what I'm capable of. That means I have more responsibility, not less. A trained person doesn't get to use emotion as an excuse. A veteran doesn't get to use frustration as an excuse. A martial artist doesn't get to use anger as an excuse. If anything, training should give you the ability to step back before you become the problem. But stepping back doesn't mean pretending everything is fine. It doesn't mean swallowing every insult, every mistake, every bit of damage, every bit of disrespect, and acting like you're a monk with a mortgage. There's a middle ground. You can control yourself and still be clear. You can refuse violence and still set a hard boundary. You can be angry and still be right. You can say, "This stops now," and sometimes you have to, because if you don't, people will keep testing the fence. That's another thing I've learned. People test boundaries. Sometimes they do it on purpose. Sometimes they do it because they're careless. Sometimes they do it because nobody ever made them stop before. Sometimes they do it because you've been patient too long and they started confusing your patience with permission. That's dangerous for them and for you because resentment builds. You let one thing go, then another, then another. You tell yourself it's not worth the fight. You tell yourself to be patient. You tell yourself maybe they'll get it. You tell yourself adults shouldn't need every little thing explained. Then one day something stupid happens, like a car hitting a wall or a grill fire burning your hand, and the old frustration comes up with it. Now, it's not just about the car. It's not just about the grill. It's about the pattern. The pattern is what makes people snap, and patterns need to be addressed early. That's the lesson I keep coming back to. Don't wait until your furious to set a boundary. Say it early, say it clearly, say it once if possible, say it again if necessary, then enforce it. Because words without enforcement are just background noise. People who ignore you will keep ignoring you if there's no cost. That's not cynicism, that's observation. The world is full of people who only understand limits when they hit one. Now let's talk about money, because this is another place where people love to act confused. I'm tired of people using me and then telling me I don't pay anything. That irritates me. Actually, it does more than irritate me. It hits that deep nerve where disrespect and financial stupidity meet. That's a foul little intersection. If I buy myself karate uniforms, that shouldn't become a crisis. I'm not buying a yacht. I'm not opening a casino. I'm not ordering diamond shoes for a pet monkey. I'm buying training uniforms for something I actually do. Something tied to my books, my system, my teaching, my identity, and my daily life. And then I hear complaints. Meanwhile, people are taking out loans and credit cards in my names or using my money in ways that make my head hurt. That's the kind of thing that will change a relationship fast. Money isn't just money. Money is labor, money is time, money is stress, money is trust. When someone treats your money like it's free, they're treating your effort like it's free. They're treating your past work like it doesn't matter. They're treating your limits like inconvenience. That's not acceptable. And if you're the one who worked for it, earned it, saved it, transferred it, managed it, or carried the burden of it, you have the right to care how it's used. That's another area where people dodge accountability. They make financial decisions, then act shocked when there are financial consequences. They borrow, they charge, they spend, they create debt. Then when the pressure comes, they look at the person who was trying to maintain order like he's the villain. No, if you create the bill, you don't get to act surprised when the bill arrives. If you use someone else's name, credit account, or money, you don't get to lecture them about what they bought for themselves. That's not how adults operate. And yes, I know every household has stress. Every relationship has money arguments. Every family has moments where one person thinks something is necessary and another person thinks it's ridiculous. That's normal. But there's a difference between normal disagreement and feeling used. There's a difference between shared responsibility and one person being treated like a walking ATM with military stories. The difference matters. And when someone crosses that line, you have to say something. This is where being done comes in. When I say I'm done with people, I don't mean I'm walking around looking for destruction. I mean I've reached a point in life where I don't have much patience left for avoidable nonsense. I left my family back in the States after 52 years. Think about that. 52 years of life in one country, family, history, habits, familiar places. Then I left. I moved to Brazil. I started building a different life. That changes your tolerance for weak attachments. If I could leave behind the entire structure of my old life, then someone I've known for 3 years, 5 years, 8 years, whatever, shouldn't assume I'm incapable of walking away. That's not cruelty, that's clarity. People need to understand that access to you is not guaranteed. Your presence isn't guaranteed. Your patience isn't guaranteed. Your help isn't guaranteed. Your money isn't guaranteed. Your forgiveness isn't guaranteed. Relationships survive because people maintain them. They don't survive because one person keeps absorbing damage while the other person keeps acting confused. That's not a relationship. That's a slow leak. And eventually, the tire goes flat. The older I get, the less I'm willing to explain basic respect over and over. Don't damage my property. Don't ignore me and then blame me for the result. Don't treat my money like it fell out of the sky. Don't stare at your phone while pretending we're having a conversation. Don't ask for honesty and then punish the answer. Don't create chaos and then demand calm from the person cleaning it up. These aren't impossible standards. These are basic adult expectations. But modern life has become so allergic to responsibility that saying basic things out loud now sounds harsh. Good. Maybe harsh is needed. Soft language hasn't fixed much. People hide inside soft language. They use it to avoid direct statements. They use it to blur fault. They use it to make everything mutual when it's not mutual. Sometimes one person is wrong. Sometimes one person caused the problem. Sometimes one person needs to apologize and fix what they broke. Sometimes everybody made mistakes is just a coward's way of protecting the person who made the biggest one. I don't have patience for that. If I'm wrong, tell me I'm wrong. Be specific. Don't give me emotional fog. Don't give me vague accusations. Don't tell me about my tone because you don't want to talk about your action. Tell me what I did, what the result was, and what responsibility belongs to me. I can work with that. But if you're wrong, I expect the same from you. That's fair. Fair doesn't always feel good. Fair isn't always gentle. Fair doesn't mean nobody gets mad. Fair means the responsibility goes where it belongs. And that's what I want more of in everyday life. Responsibility where it belongs. If you messed up, own it. If you broke it, fix it. If you borrowed it, return it. If you spent it, admit it. If you ignored the instruction, don't blame the person who gave it. If you hurt someone, don't make the conversation about how uncomfortable you feel being confronted. That last one is big. People love doing that. They hurt someone, then when confronted, they make themselves the emotional center of the event. Now the person who got hurt has to comfort the person who caused the hurt. Absolutely not. That's emotional theft. You don't get to create damage and then demand care because accountability feels bad. Accountability is supposed to feel bad when you did something wrong. That feeling is part of the system. It's the internal alarm telling you, maybe don't do that again. But instead of learning, people avoid. They blame tone, they blame stress, they blame misunderstanding, they blame alcohol, they blame culture, they blame timing, they blame anything with a pulse except themselves. And then they repeat the behavior. That's why boundaries matter. A boundary isn't a speech. A boundary is a rule with a consequence. If you keep damaging my property, you can't be around my property. If you keep abusing my money, you can't access my money. If you keep ignoring me, you can't expect me to keep explaining. If you keep treating me like I don't matter, eventually you'll find out what life looks like without my involvement. That may sound cold. It's not. It's clean. Cold would be pretending to care while quietly planning revenge. Clean is telling someone the truth and giving them a chance to correct course. But that chance can't be infinite. Infinite chances are how you train people to disrespect you. And I'm not interested in training people to disrespect me. I train martial arts. That's enough repetition for one life. There's also a deeper issue here. When you've spent a life in structured environments, whether military or martial arts, you develop a low tolerance for preventable chaos. In the Army, mistakes happen. Of Of course they do. Anyone who says otherwise is lying or selling something. But there's a culture of correction. There's a chain of responsibility. There's a reason for procedures. There's a reason people repeat instructions. There's a reason you check equipment. There's a reason you do rehearsals. There's a reason you listen. Because consequences exist. Civilian life often feels like people are surprised by consequences every single day. They do something careless, and when reality responds, they act betrayed. Reality isn't betraying you. Reality is functioning. If you drive into a wall, the wall doesn't care about your intention. If you stick your hand near fire, fire doesn't care about your feelings. If you spend money you don't have, debt doesn't care about your explanation. If you ignore people long enough, distance doesn't care about your excuses. Cause and effect still works. Human beings keep trying to negotiate with it. That's adorable in the same way watching someone argue with gravity would be adorable. And this is where training helps. Training teaches cause and effect. If your stance is bad, your balance is bad. If your guard is low, your face is open. If your recovery is lazy, your next defense is late. If your footwork is wrong, your angle is wrong. If your attention wanders, you miss the cue. The body tells the truth. That's one reason I love martial arts. It strips away some of the nonsense. You can talk all you want, but eventually you have to move. Eventually your balance either works or it doesn't. Your strike lands or it doesn't. Your defense covers or it doesn't. Training punishes delusion. Life does too. Just slower sometimes. That's why I keep coming back to basics. Basics in training, basics in communication, basics in responsibility, basics in money, basics in relationships. Listen, pay attention, do what you said you'd do. Don't damage things, don't use people, don't blame others for your choices. Put the phone down, recover your position, take responsibility. These aren't complicated ideas, but apparently they're rare enough now to be worth an hour of me talking into a microphone. That's where we are. So that's Raw Friday. A workout turned into a rant turned into a lesson turned into another reminder that most of life comes back to basics. Train the basics, listen to people, put the phone down, know who you are with, know who you're without needing every stranger to recognize it. Know who you are without needing every stranger to recognize it. In other words, validation. Rest when your body needs rest. Don't confuse rank with completion. Don't confuse technology with intelligence. Don't confuse intention with outcome. Don't confuse someone's patience with permission. And don't create a problem, then act offended when the person dealing with the consequences gets angry. This episode covered a lot because that's how my brain works. Martial arts, phones, Brazil, black belts, money, damaged walls, burned hands, training uniforms, security motorcycles, and the general decline of common sense. Somehow it all connects. Terrifying, but there it is. The main point is simple. Your life will get cleaner when your standards get clearer. That doesn't mean life gets easy. Easy isn't the promise. Clear is better than easy anyway. Clear means you know what you're training. Clear means you know what you'll tolerate. Clear means you know what belongs to you and what doesn't. Clear means you stop accepting blame for other people's choices. Clear means you stop letting distraction eat your attention. Clear means you stop pretending basics are beneath you. Most people want a better life without becoming more disciplined. That doesn't work. You can't build anything solid out of excuses. You want skill? Train. You want respect? Act with respect and require it back. You want better communication? Put the phone down and listen. You want fewer consequences? Make fewer stupid decisions. You want trust? Stop abusing it. You want peace? Stop inviting chaos and calling it normal. And if you're the person surrounded by chaos, start drawing lines. You don't have to scream. You don't have to threaten. You don't have to explain yourself to death. You just have to decide what the standard is and enforce it. That's where peace starts. Not the fake peace where everybody pretends things are fine. Real peace. The kind built on trust, discipline, and people knowing where the line is. This is what I'm working toward, in training, in writing, in relationships, in life here in Brazil. Some days I do better than others. Some days I'm calm. Some days I'm sore. Some days I'm irritated enough to root for the meteor. But I keep showing up. That's the job. Keep showing up. Work the basics, correct what needs correcting, walk away from what refuses to improve, and try not to let the glowing rectangles finish turning everyone into distracted furniture. This has been Sean thinking out loud. I'll see you next time.